It's a hard thing.
In a world where every music biopic promises to show you the man behind the music, this one had the audacity to show you a man who couldn't even find himself in his own songs. Welcome back to Frameshift, Deep Cut, where we dissect films until the subtext starts billing us for emotional labour. Before we spiral into existential folk music territory, quick reminder, if you enjoy watching someone overanalyze movies with the energy of a film student who just discovered coffee and metaphor, hitting subscribe costs you nothing but saves me from having to explain what I do at family dinners. Your support is basically charity work for the cinematically obsessed now. Let's talk about watching Jeremy Allen White suffer for art. Scott Cooper's Deliver Me From Nowhere opens with the kind of scene that immediately makes you nervous. Black and white childhood trauma, an alcoholic father, a kid who's seen too much, standard biopic playbook. Then we cut to adult Springsteen on tour in Cincinnati, and Jeremy Allen White is singing, performing, doing something that feels uncomfortably close to karaoke night at a themed restaurant. For about 20 minutes, you're sitting there wondering if this whole thing is about to collapse into greatest hits, the flannel years. But then something shifts. The film stops pretending to be a celebration and becomes a confession. Set roughly between 1981 and 1982, we follow Springsteen coming off the massive River Tour, a year-long victory lap that should have felt like winning, except Bruce is walking around like someone who just realised the trophy is empty. Columbia Records wants another hungry heart. Bruce wants to sit alone in a rental house in New Jersey, reading Flannery O'Connor stories about grotesque violence and Catholic guilt. You know, normal decompression stuff. He buys a 4-track tape recorder. He drives past his abandoned childhood home. He goes to dive bars and howls through John Lee Hooker covers like he's exercising something the audience can't see. He starts dating Faye, a single mom played by Odessa Young, in scenes so tender and doomed you can feel the inevitable unravelling before they even kiss. And slowly, painfully, he records what will become Nebraska, an album of acoustic folk songs about serial killers, economic despair, and people trapped by circumstances they didn't choose. It's the least commercial thing he could have made, and according to this film, it's also the most honest. Here's where Cooper's movie does something genuinely smart. It refuses to mythologize. Most music biopics operate like hagiographies with a soundtrack. The artist suffers beautifully. The artist has a breakthrough. The artist learns to love himself. And also, here's a montage of platinum records. Roll credits, buy the vinyl reissue. This film doesn't do that. Instead, it shows you a man who is successfully famous, critically adored, financially secure, and completely lost. Not in a romantic, tortured genius way. In the way someone is lost when they realise they've been running from something their entire life and they just stopped. Bruce sits in darkness. He watches Terrence Malick's Badlands on repeat, a film about a spree killer and his teenage girlfriend driving aimlessly through the Midwest, narrated with eerie detachment. He writes a song called Starkweather about Charles Starkweather, the real-life murderer who inspired that film. He doesn't explain why. The movie doesn't explain why, but you feel why, because sometimes violence is the only language that makes sense when you're trying to describe what it feels like to grow up terrified in your own home. The studio sessions are fascinating. Bruce and the E Street Band try to electrify these songs, turn them into anthems, make them palatable, and it sounds wrong. Too loud, too polished, too much. So he scraps it all and masters the album directly from his bedroom tapes, complete with the hiss, the imperfections, the sound of a guy alone with a guitar, trying not to disappear into his own head. There's a scene where John Landau, played with surprising tenderness by Jeremy Strong, listens to the demo tape and tells his wife it's like he's channeling something deeply personal and dark. She responds, it sounds like he's pushing boundaries, which is the kind of dialogue that should make you groan, except Strong plays it like a man genuinely worried about his friend, not a manager excited about artistic innovation. The care is real, the fear is real. Let's talk about Jeremy Allen White for a second. He doesn't look like Springsteen, not really, and for the first third of the movie, he's doing an impression, the voice, the physicality, the New Jersey growl. It's competent but distant, like watching someone perform being Bruce Springsteen rather than being a person. But once the film settles into the Colt's next sessions, White stops performing and starts inhabiting. His face becomes a landscape of suppressed panic. He stammers, he listens, he reacts like someone trying to hold himself together with duct tape and denim. It's not flashy, it's not Oscar clip material, it's just real. And that's the thing, this movie earns its emotional weight by refusing to make depression look cinematic. Bruce doesn't have poetic breakdowns. He just sits in rooms that are too quiet and stares at walls and occasionally says things like, I don't think I can outrun this anymore, with the cadence of someone admitting defeat to gravity. The relationship with Faye is where the film gets genuinely heartbreaking. Odessa Young plays her as someone who sees Bruce clearly not the rock star, not the myth, but the guy who's kind and broken and probably not ready for another person's life to depend on him. Their scenes together are warm, tentative, doomed. She's not a manic pixie dream girl sent to heal him. She's a single mother with her own responsibilities who maybe hoped this could work, and it can't. And that's nobody's fault, but it still hurts. When things fall apart, it's not dramatic, it's just sad, and the movie lets it be sad without turning it into a redemption arc or a lesson learned. Sometimes people care about each other, and it still doesn't work. That's the story. The father-son material could have been maudlin, but Stephen Graham, who remains one of the most underrated actors working, makes Doug Springsteen more than just monster dad. He's a man destroyed by his own brain chemistry, violent and tender, an impossible combination. The late film scenes between him and Bruce are quiet devastations. They don't fix anything, they don't resolve anything, they just exist in the space where trauma and love overlap and refuse to make sense. Maybe that's what makes Nebraska, both the album and this film, about its creation so enduring. It's not inspirational, it's not aspirational, it doesn't promise that art will save you or that success means healing. It just says sometimes the only way forward is to stop pretending you're okay and make something that sounds like how you actually feel, even if that feeling is, I am so tired of being afraid. Bruce Springsteen spent his career writing anthems about American struggle, blue-collar dreams, economic decay, cars and highways as escape routes from towns that trap you. But Nebraska is where he admitted, I'm one of those people. I'm scared too. I don't know how to fix this either. And somehow that admission, that refusal to lie, became its own kind of anthem. Scott Cooper's film doesn't tie neat bows. Bruce gets help. He makes Nebraska. He sets aside the hits, Born in the USA, Glory Days, songs that would have made Columbia millions, because he needs to get this darker, smaller, more honest thing out of his system first, and then the movie just ends. No victory lap, no redemption montage, just a guy who made something true and is maybe, possibly, slightly less afraid than he was before, which is about as close to a happy ending as anyone dealing with depression gets. So yeah, Deliver Me From Nowhere isn't the Springsteen biopic anyone expected. It's not a celebration. It's not a greatest hits compilation with a narrative. It's a film about what happens when you stop running from the thing that's been chasing you since childhood. Sit down in a quiet room and finally let it catch up. And if that doesn't sound like a fun night at the movies, you're right. It's not fun, but it might be the most honest music film in years. Anyway, that's our deep cut, where even acoustic folk albums about serial killers get the cinematic analysis they deserve. Drop your thoughts below. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. Tell me which Springsteen song makes you cry in traffic. I'll read every comment at 2 a.m. while pretending to be emotionally stable. And hey, if you made it this far, maybe stick around for the next one. We've got more films to dissect, more subtext to weaponize, and I promise at least one of them will be fun. Probably. See you in the next cut.